It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napolis with us, ready to get you started on a Saturday morning. Alex, what's up, man?
It's good to be back. Hey, I mean, this is week 4 of us doing this, and they still haven't kicked us off. So, yeah. I mean, we got to be doing something right.
They're still allowing us to come in and start your day off right. And if you're listening, we appreciate it. We love doing it.
Absolutely.
Let's start things off before we get into football talk. Busy day today. I think this is the first week of the season that we've got Utah, Utah State, and BYU all playing on a Saturday. So busy day for us here on the station. Let's start things off, though, going highlight of the week.
My highlight of the week, man, look, it's been a stressful week. Trying to just, be in the rhythm of getting everything ready and, preparing for this busy Saturday. So I had the opportunity to go out and call some soccer this week. I did soccer at Lehigh earlier this week. I did soccer for Slick earlier this week. And then last night I got to go do Mountain Ridge at Farmington. So, I mean, just being out there play-by-play, that's always going to be my highlight of the week, man.
There you go. Yeah, my week was, I had a busy week. I helped out with the Hans and Scotty show, helped out with DJ and PK. Of course, I have my show that I produce on a daily basis. Outside of that, I didn't really get out and do a whole lot. Kind of a low-key week for me. But the other day I did take my dog out. There's a little trail that we like to kind of go hike in, and there's a little creek that he likes to... He's not much of a water dog. It's funny, but he likes to play in this water. He'll get up to about his ankles. He's a really small dog, so he doesn't get in the water too much, but he really enjoys going on this trail, and I like taking him out there and getting him out, and he's a funny little pup. That was my highlight.
That's awesome, man. And I've seen pictures of your dog. He's very adorable.
Yeah, he's cute. He just got a haircut, so right now he's looking kind of like a rat.
That's awesome.
How they do sometimes, but it is what it is. He'll look cute in about a month. But Alex, let's talk football. And first, I want to start with BYU. We'll talk about Utah later at the 11 o'clock hour. They're going to be playing at Utah State. That game's coming up today at 2:30. Pregame is going to be at 1:30 here on the Zone. We're actually going to have the Utah pregame on 97.5. That starts on 1:30. And then the Utah State side of the pregame with Scotty G, that's going to be, again, at 1:30, but that'll be on the 1280 signal. So 2 simultaneous pregames going on. And then the game broadcast will be on both signals, and that will be the Utah State broadcast with Scotty G. But again, let's go back to BYU. I want to start with them because they have a really interesting matchup at Wyoming today. And Wyoming was kind of a big rival for BYU in yesteryear, kind of before my time, obviously working in sports. It's been a while since they've had this rivalry, but they get to kind of rekindle that flame tonight at 7 when they take on the Cowboys in Laramie.
It's a big matchup for BYU, obviously not only because they're off to a 2-0 start. There's a really big possibility that BYU can continue this run, go 3-0 on the road, but it's going to be a tough game because Wyoming, like you mentioned, it is a rivalry, and I'm sure Wyoming fans and I'm sure people within the Wyoming program, they haven't forgotten this rivalry with the Cougars, so they're going to be chomping at the bit to get out there, take on BYU in their home stadium. They're going to want to knock them off, especially now because I think BYU has just a little bit of more confidence after what happened last week with their win at SMU.
Yeah, and it's always tough because Laramie is such a hostile environment, but you mentioned Wyoming is 0-2 this season. They opened the season with the 48-7 loss to Arizona State, and then they lost at home against Idaho, a Big Sky FCS team, 17-13. So that's a big loss for the Cowboys, and maybe they're going to come into this game against BYU feeling like they need a win, feeling like this is a must-win game, and there's just a lot of variables going into this, and because traditionally Wyoming is a team that you don't really want to mess with at their home stadium, but they've looked so bad to start the year, so we really don't know what we're going to get for BYU. But on BYU's side, it's big for them. They're coming off a win at SMU, and it was a pretty good win, Alex. The score was 18-15. BYU did a lot of good things defensively, but offensively they struggled with turnovers. Jake Retzlaff, he threw 2 interceptions. He fumbled the ball, and that is a point that head coach Kalani Sitake mentioned. You got to take care of the turnovers here.
You have to take care of the ball. You have to just produce more on offense.
Yeah.
It was kind of a slow night production-wise as far as offense goes for BYU against SMU. The defense did a phenomenal job of keeping them in this game. And so, I mean, a similar conversation to what we heard with Utah last year, right? When their offense wasn't really producing, how far will their defense take them? I want to pose that question now for BYU as well. How far can this BYU defense take this Cougar side?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think in these non-conference games, right, it's been working so far. But once you get into Big 12 play, I don't know if they can ride their defense to win. I mean, you can't put up 18 points
and expect to win.
Expect to beat Kansas State in a couple of weeks, right?
Absolutely.
And yeah, so I want to hear. Kalani Sitake had a funny kind of clip earlier this week. I thought it was funny, just the way he worded it. This is what he had to say about taking care of the football.
No, there's no one-offs. Take care of the stinking football. That's what it comes down to. So I've said it over and over and over again. I don't want guys to have to play tight and feel like they can't take a chance. The football belongs to everybody. It belongs to the fans. It belongs to the team. It belongs to the program. It's not just that one player's. It's not his ball. It belongs to all of us. And so they need to start thinking about it more like that.
So I think he's got a good point there because obviously you can't score points if you don't have the ball. And the team has been a little reckless, Jake Retzlaff in particular, throughout his time starting at BYU, going back to the 4 starts last year. He has been reckless with the football. So protecting that ball and eliminating the turnovers, I think that is probably the biggest thing that BYU needs to work on in this game to wrap up their non-conference slate.
Right, and this, like you mentioned, this isn't really a new thing for BYU. We saw it last year. We're continuing to see it this year, and it's a problem. You don't want the turnover bug. You can't win games when you're losing the turnover battle. It's difficult. Like I said, how far will this defense take them? I think they passed the SMU test. Now they need to pass this Wyoming test, and if they lose the turnover battle, things can get rough again if the defense isn't having that same performance that they had against SMU.
Yeah, so Kansas State, they're currently ranked number 14. They come to Provo next week. I thought the game was a little farther out. It's next week when BYU opens up their conference slate. Again, that's against Kansas State, one of the favorites to win the conference. Then they're going to go to Baylor, and then they're going to host Arizona, and then host Oklahoma State. So they've got a couple of big games across the next month, and you can't be turning the ball over against these premier teams in the Big 12, I guess we'll call them.
Absolutely not. And I don't want to look too far ahead yet because, like we were talking about, this Wyoming test is huge for BYU.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. If the offense can't really secure the ball, keep the ball, and protect the ball against Wyoming, that's just going to cause concerns next week when they go to, when they play Kansas State, because Kansas State isn't a team that's going to, allow you to. Let me backtrack. Kansas State isn't going to be a team that's going to leave you with that you're going to be able to leave with no touchdowns, right?
Yeah,
against SMU, exactly, like they did against SMU. They need to figure out that offense, and I think Wyoming's a perfect game to do it. Not only because it's a high state game, but it's obviously your final tune-up before you head into that Big 12 play.
Yeah, and I don't know. Again, going back to Wyoming, we don't really know what they are, so we don't know what to expect. First-year head coach in Jay Sauvel this year, 0-2 on the season. They lost to an FCS team. So you would think that, this is a great opportunity for Jake Retzlaff to come in, protect the ball, show that he can really distribute to his receivers. I mean, we haven't really seen Cody Epps get going. Darius Lassiter had a nice long catch and run last week, but outside of that, he hasn't really done a lot. So we want to see Jake Retzlaff distribute to his playmakers. But the other thing outside of, protecting the football that I want to see from BYU's offense is the rushing attack. It's looked really bad the last couple of weeks, and especially now they're down LJ Martin and Hinckley Rapati. Their top 2 running backs on the depth chart. Kalani Sitake said earlier this week that they were doubtful to play tonight in Wyoming. Haven't really heard an update there. So how is BYU's rushing attack going to look? They only had 134 yards on the ground last week. Again, that was aided by Jake Retzlaff himself. He had 35 yards on 10 carries. Miles Davis had a nice long run to convert a 4th down. So outside of those, kind of trick plays, they have not been able to move the ball on the ground at all.
And I mean, You look at the rushing total against SMU. They rushed a total of 134 yards, which I mean isn't the worst, but it's also bad when you're looking at a Big 12 standpoint, because 134 yards isn't necessarily going to isn't going to move the ball too much, I think, against Big 12 teams. So they have to figure it out, and I think this is a huge game for a guy like Miles Davis to come in, step up, and kind of take over that load and figure out that run game, man. If BYU can figure out the run game, I would feel a little bit more comfortable about this BYU offense, but until that run game is really sorted out, I think that this offense will continue to struggle.
I'm right there with you. You, especially with a semi-inexperienced quarterback like Jake Retzlaff, and the style of play in the Big 12 conference and all that, like you can't go into this conference schedule with a weak running game. And it's kind of scary because that starts again next week against Kansas State. They've got some big games, so they really need to figure this out quickly, because you cannot be rushing for less than 150 yards minimum. And even that is pretty weak for Big 12 football as far as the ground game goes. So yeah, BYU needs to get this figured out. We hope that LJ Martin and Hinckley Rapati again can heal up and return from injury sooner rather than later. We don't really know what's going on there, but tonight I do think it's going to be a really positive game for BYU. And we saw a lot of positives last week against SMU, and I don't want to overshadow those. But the reality is the turnovers were extremely glaring. Not being able to run the football, extremely glaring against an SMU team that, frankly, was not really known for its defense, right? But again, a big opportunity for BYU tonight. So I really do think that they're going to put on a good show.
And how much confidence does that give you going into conference play at 3-0, right? We talked about how difficult the SMU game was going to be in the preseason. We talked about how difficult the Wyoming game was going to be in the preseason. Now we're at the point where if BYU knocks off Wyoming, you're already halfway to bowl eligibility. And we were talking about how the goal should be bowl eligibility. They're already halfway there if they can pull off this win against Wyoming. So I think that does a lot for this BYU's team confidence. Again, a big if they can go into Wyoming and get that win.
Yeah, and it's hard because, I mean, what were they at, 5 wins last year when they opened conference play? Or not exactly, but they were at 5 wins. They were in a similar spot where they're like, oh yeah, we only need one more game for bowl eligibility, and then they lost.
They didn't get it.
Their last however many games to close the season, and they weren't able to pick that up. But you're right, Alex. Getting this third win right now after just 3 weeks of play, that's obviously huge, because you've got some games like Baylor that should be a little softer. Who knows what Arizona State could be, and then Houston to close the season. So that theoretically could be BYU's 6 wins right there. But you got to wrap this up tonight in Laramie, because if you don't get it now, that 6th win might be really hard to come by in a very, very competitive Big 12 conference. And even mentioning Arizona State, I mean, they're looking a lot better than kind of anybody thought that they would. So yeah. I don't want to chalk that up as an easy win for BYU, especially this early in the season. But regardless, back to your point, if the goal is bowl eligibility, this is a must-win game for BYU tonight.
Absolutely. You go 3-0 heading into conference play. You have that confidence heading into Big 12, and I think the conversation completely changes, right? We're not as worried about BYU as maybe we probably were at the beginning of the year. 3-0 is huge, and like we said last week, it's best case scenario for BYU. Absolutely best case scenario.
Yeah. I do think they'll get it. I do. And I know it's only been 2 games, and we've got the 3rd game coming up tonight, but I think the biggest thing for BYU that's going to really help them on the way to bowl eligibility is this defense, man. And I know we spent a lot of time talking about it last week because they played last Friday night, so we were able to recap that SMU game last Saturday show, but man, this defense playing at the level that they have displayed over the first 2 games, if they can carry this level of defense into the Big 12 play, this is huge. And I said earlier, in the preseason that they were going to have probably an average Big 12 defense, but against SMU, that looked like a defense that could be probably top 5 in the Big 12 conference. I mean, they're fun to watch.
And we have to give them their flowers for holding SMU to no touchdowns, man. I'm still amazed by the fact that all of SMU's scores just came off the field goals, right? They didn't allow them into the end zone. And I think that's huge. Like I said earlier, we have to pose the question of just how far can this BYU defense take this BYU team? Last year, we saw Utah's defense rise to the occasion. They allowed Utah to get bowl eligible. They got the 8 wins even without a quarterback, and that whole situation with Utah last year. Now, my question is, and the challenge is for BYU to kind of do the same. How far can this defense take you? We've seen a lot of really, really great positives coming out of this BYU defense. We've seen a lot of good things happening with this BYU defense. Holding SMU again to no touchdowns is just the absolute cherry on top of the cake. Can they ride this defense to bowl eligibility? Can they ride this defense to maybe making some noise in the Big 12?
Yeah, and that's a really interesting comparison. I kind of like that. Going back to Utah last year, Utah, of course, their offense struggled for different reasons. Cam Rising was out last year the whole season with injury, and they were able to ride that Utah defense to 8 wins. And I don't think BYU can ride their defense to 8 wins this year, but given how the offense has looked so far, that's probably going to be what BYU season is going to look like, similar to last year's Utah season. I don't think that BYU can really pull off a big upset win like Utah did over USC, but their defense is good enough to keep them in games, and I think the offense has potential. That's the other thing, is it's not like the offense is just dead and out to rights for the rest of the year.
No, absolutely not.
I think Jake Retzlaff has the potential. I think Gary Bohannon has the potential, whether if he is going to come in and play at any point. But this BYU offense has so many weapons, and if the ground game is going with LJ Martin, the potential is there.
There's still plenty of time. We're 2 games into the season. Like I said, if they get to 3-0, I think it does a lot to the confidence, especially heading into Big 12 play. And if they can get some early wins in Big 12 play, I think obviously that will do even more to the confidence, and we'll just continue to see this offense grow as the season continues, right? Kansas State, probably a really difficult game, even at home. We'll see how that one goes, but you look at Baylor will be a tough game, but that's one of those games that you look at and circle it and say maybe BYU can pull off a win in this one. And then you got Arizona coming into Provo a couple of days after that, right? If they can continue to grow the confidence of this offense, if they can continue to grow the confidence of this running game, of this passing game, and we can see more, the offense continue to get better and better as the seasons progress, maybe we're having a different conversation once we do get to that Baylor game and once we do get to that Arizona game. I think obviously home field advantage will be huge for BYU, especially against Arizona, but they really need to figure out this offense, and I hope we can just continue to see it grow, man.
I'm right there with you. Let's look at this Wyoming team a little bit what to expect to tonight. So they've got Evans Svoboda. I hope I'm saying that right. He's their starting quarterback. Only 41% completion percentage through their first 2 games.
Oof.
So not looking good there. 168 yards, I believe, passing across 2 games as well. Oof. He's got 20 carries for 15 yards. But of course, college, they count. I believe sacks get counted towards rushing stats, so that could skew things a little bit. And then it looks like they've got a workhorse running back, DJ Jones. He's got 123 yards on 34 carries, split up across 2 games. So really just like almost nothing from this Wyoming offense. So again, going back to BYU's defense, they should have a really, really good game tonight. But again, it's only been 2 games, so it's hard to kind of talk about what to expect from these guys. But man, the 41% completion percentage. I'd hope to see BYU create some turnovers tonight. They've forced a couple across their first 2 wins, but this is one of those games where you kind of just pin your ears back, get after the quarterback, force him to make really bad decisions. He's clearly either not accurate or just not making the best decisions with the football. This is one of those games where you can send some blitz packages after him, hope he'll mess up and throw a pick.
Or even that, man. Just pressure him and get him into some sacks. Get him down in the backfield, take him down, and allow your defense to kind of flourish. This is a quarterback who's already been sacked 7 times this year with 2 interceptions. Get the pressure on the quarterback and make something happen defensively. Because if you can get the pressure on Wyoming, get the quarterback in the backfield, create some sacks, create some turnovers, obviously you'll give your offense opportunities to be on the field. And I think the more BYU's offense is on this field, it's better for BYU because, like I said, they need to continue just growing that confidence, force some turnovers, force some sacks, get the ball back in your offense's hands, and hopefully BYU can create that way.
Shout out to Mitch Harper, our BYU insider for KSL Sports. He put out a good article earlier this week. I believe it was yesterday on previewing this matchup. He called them a wounded dog. He called Wyoming a wounded dog in the title. But anyways, he mentioned that the Pokes are ranked 132nd in the country in total offense, averaging 194 yards per game, and then 128th in scoring offense at just 10 points a game. Meanwhile, BYU is 31st nationally in total defense, allowing 246 yards a game, and then 44th in scoring defense through the first 2 weeks. Obviously, a lot of these games played through the first couple of weeks are FBS against FCS teams, so you're going to get a lot of opponents, a lot of defenses looking a lot better than they really are. But I mean, from what I've seen from BYU's defense, that sounds about right. Like, they've really blown me away in terms of just being everywhere, swarming to the ball, being really physical up front. I mean, SMU could not run the ball against BYU at all. And to start out the game, there were Cougars in the backfield on every single play. And
absolutely.
The quarterback was just getting swarmed, and then when he was able to release the ball and get it to a receiver, it seemed like there were 3 or 4 BYU defensive players there immediately to make a tackle. So that's what I'm hoping to see from BYU tonight. That's what I'm hoping to see from BYU throughout the rest of the season, and I think it's been really encouraging so far. Of course, they've got Jay Hill still recovering from his heart attack, defensive coordinator for BYU. He'll be up in the booth calling defensive plays from there, and that's kind of been a fun change for him. But, this defense, man, who would have thought that they would be kind of the leading storyline once the season starts?
I mean, hey, we said, too, prior to the season starting,
right,
they were a little underrated. And I think they're proving that through the first 2 weeks. Really, really awesome to see. Really awesome to see this kind of defense flourish and continue to grow, man. It's awesome to see them finally get comfortable in the system and play well. Just looking at the stats, man, and looking at this matchup, I feel like BYU's defense has a really good matchup. So we just hope that they can carry that momentum into this one. Yeah,
I do think they will, especially because, as we just hammered on, I mean, Wyoming's offense has been struggling. I don't see a way in which Wyoming's offense just comes out and lights up this defense all of a sudden. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. But I don't see a scenario in which that happens, right? Am I wrong?
No. But, I mean, at the end of the day, games aren't played on stats and paper.
Right.
It's played out on the field. So BYU just has to go out there and be hungry.
And it's a rivalry game, so who knows? I mean, the Pokes could be really fired up, and let's hope that BYU is not overlooking these guys, because BYU is not in a position, frankly, to really overlook anybody.
Yeah.
And I know that they've looked good throughout the first 2 weeks, but they won by 3 points last week. So they're not, in my head, they're not in a position to say, oh yeah, this is just an easy win for us tonight in Laramie. And I don't think they are, but I sure hope that they're not going in with that mentality, because in Laramie, no matter how bad Wyoming's looked so far, that's going to get you if you overlook these guys. And again, I don't think that BYU's doing that necessarily, but I don't know. It's just,
they've got a lot to prove, man. So I don't think they can afford to overlook someone like Wyoming.
Right, and especially where we've talked about wins are going to be hard to come by with this tough schedule that BYU has. They know they've got to take care of business, and I know that the rivalry thing isn't as big as it used to be. And Kalani Sitake kind of joked about earlier in the week, like, it's not the same to these young guys. These guys that are on this roster, they came to this BYU team to play in the Big 12. They don't really understand the rivalry of Wyoming and BYU. And I get it. But at the same time, it's a rivalry, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
You got to get up for those rivalry games.
And Laramie will. they'll be there. They'll be in full force, I would think. I mean, I know they're coming off of a loss against Idaho again, but
and I mean, I'm sure Wyoming fans are looking at this one and looking at it as a kind of the same way BYU is looking at it. Like it's a big rivalry game. It's a chance to knock off a really good opponent in what we hope we're going to create a tough environment for the visitors, right? So I'm sure they're looking at it the same way as kind of BYU is looking at this game right now.
Agreed. And another thing that we really haven't touched on, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in the show, but Wyoming just got left out of the latest conference realignment news. In case you missed it, Colorado State, Fresno State, Boise State, and San Diego State. Did I name all four of them?
I think so, yeah.
They are leaving the Mountain West Conference to join the remaining teams from the Pac-12, Oregon State and Washington State. So they're all state schools, by the way. But anyways, yeah, Wyoming is left out. And Utah State was left out. We'll talk about how they feel about it. But maybe that could kind of ignite these guys saying, why weren't we good enough?
Yeah,
maybe
fired up.
Maybe that'll give them a second win. Who knows? But that could be some extra motivation there.
Absolutely. When we'll get into it later too, but like if I'm Wyoming, I'm looking at that and I'm going to be a little upset.
Yeah, and they're losing a big rival in Colorado State. They had a pretty meaningful rivalry with those guys, and so they're going to lose that now going forward. And again, like if I were a part of that program, I'd be sitting there wondering, like, why are we not good enough? Why did we get overlooked for this?
Absolutely.
Because traditionally, Wyoming has been like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They haven't been good the last couple of years, but they are kind of a school with history, right? And to be frank with you, I don't know why Colorado State would get chosen over a lot of these other schools in the Mountain West that got left behind. But I just think that maybe Wyoming could be a little extra fired up because of that recent news that happened on, I believe it was Thursday morning was when it was made official. So we'll see on that front maybe.
Josh Allen, former school. I forgot Josh Allen went to Wyoming too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We can spend a little bit of time on that now, though, because it is big news. And it affects us locally because Utah State, again, they're one of the teams that was left behind as well.
If I'm Utah State, I'm in the same situation. I'm looking at that, and I'm going to be fired up this weekend. And we'll also get into Utah State here in a minute. But if I'm looking at that, I'm asking why aren't we good enough to get that invite?
I definitely think that Utah State should be there instead of Colorado State. And UNLV as well. It doesn't make sense that they would be passed up. Colorado State really does not fit in with those other schools. I mean, they're not good at basketball or football currently. They don't really have a ton of history either. I don't know. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. UNLV would make a little bit more sense.
Because of the Vegas market.
It would make a little bit more sense than Colorado State. But I can see why Wyoming was left out. I can see why Utah State was left out.
Yeah.
It's just when you look at those teams, as far as TV goes, it just probably doesn't pull the same amount, like the same numbers.
Yeah.
That you would maybe a San Diego State.
And that's totally understandable. I mean, yeah, San Diego over in California, huge market. Fresno, huge market. Boise State, one of the top G5 programs currently, and really since they've been in the Mountain West. They all make sense. But Colorado State, I totally get you. I do think, so the Pac-12, as it currently sits, they're at 6 teams. They need 2 more teams to really be a conference. They can't be a conference with only 6 teams. So I don't think they're going to, I don't know, there's people holding out hope that, they still might add Utah State. I don't think that they're going to add Utah State now if they didn't add them in the initial wave, right?
No, I'm right there with you. It would make sense for, like I said, a UNLV to be added. It would make sense for even maybe a Hawaii.
Really? You think so?
Even maybe a Hawaii. But I don't know, man. When I think of Utah State, I love them and I hope they do well. But as far as like the TV numbers go and the popularity, they're just not up there with the other.
To join the Pac-12.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think they're going to be trying to. It's hard.
I hope they do. I hope they eventually get invited.
The Pac-12 has kind of been a really regional conference, right? all West Coast teams and really West Coast. And of course, none of the conferences are regional anymore after the big alignment. But it makes me wonder if the Pac-12 really is going to try to go more east and get maybe Memphis is a team that I've heard talked about a little bit, but they'd be throwing away the only thing that keeps them kind of unique from the other power conferences. And by the way, the Pac-12 won't be a power conference. They're going to be considered a G5, even though there's more than 5 right now. And they're going to be on the same level as the Mountain West anyways. It's pretty confusing, but regardless, if they hope to become a power conference again in the future, what's going to set them apart from the Big 12, from the ACC, from the SEC? Having that regionality is what made the Pac-12 unique. And if they go east, they're not going to have that, setting them apart.
And I think it's going to be really hard to even get back into the conversation of being a power school because all the power schools have already been taken to another. Yeah, they've already been taken by the other conferences. So it's like, what can you really do to get back to that level?
Yeah, it is tough. But let's go ahead and take a break here. And next, I want to hear from Utah Hockey Club. They're starting their rookie camp this week. They started on Wednesday. And on my show, Jake and Ben, they actually had the opportunity to talk with the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club, Andre Tourigny. He also goes by The Bear. And so that was a really fun conversation. I thought that we would replay that. We'll do that coming up next here on the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napolis with me. Earlier in the week, we had a big interview on the station, the show I produce Monday through Friday. Jake and Ben, they were able to sit down with the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club, of course, Salt Lake City's shiny new toy, the NHL franchise that moved here really quickly. It became official, I think, in March or April, and rookie camp is starting. Preseason starts in less than a month. And anyways, we had the head coach, Andre Tourigny, on Jake and Ben earlier this week, and we'll let you listen to that.
It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Ben, we are very excited about our next guest because I've been doing this for 20 years now. You've been doing this for a long time, and one of the topics, the forever topics, has always been, will another major league sports franchise come to Salt Lake City?
Will we get it?
And it seemed like a flash, like an overnight thing, and the answer is yes, the Utah Hockey Club. And joining us now, the head coach. I'm just going to go with Coach Bear.
Does
that
work? Sounds really good.
It's so great to talk to you. Not only great to meet you, but for the reason that I just said. It's been a long time for this community waiting for something like this to happen. And I don't know if you can feel it, but like the vibe around town is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty cool. I think you said it right. I think since the beginning, the first time we came right away after our season, when we flew here, the way the fans welcome us at the airport here after the Delta Center and everywhere around the city, and then after that I moved in July. And everywhere I go with a logo, people talk to me and tell me exactly what you just said. They're excited about having the team. They cannot wait the season start and all of it. So it make us feel really, really good, and we give us the boost to make sure we share the same not the boost to share the same excitement, but the desire to play at the level to create that excitement or to maintain that excitement.
We know athletes, coaches move around a lot, and it's probably hard to ever establish like home. This feels like home. Does having the whole team move make it easier for everyone to kind of establish and be like, well, I do have a community, even though if I've never been here before?
Really well said. I think for us, it's when you get traded or hired in a new team or whatever, now you arrive in a new group. You everything's new. You don't us we're 70, 80 people who move together. There's a player, there's a coach, but there's an whole team behind it, the management and the media, the high performance, so on and so forth, who move with us. So I think that make us, first of all, we know people who's around us, make us feel a little bit comfortable. And the other thing is, the way the people behave with us since we're here. The people from SEG, the people from the Jazz, who are all smiling, all and on deck to try to help us for whatever we need all the time. It's almost embarrassing how much they try to help us and how great they are with us. So I think we feel really fortunate.
So I also do the host the pre, half, and post for the Utah Jazz, and
Okay.
I worked for the Jazz. It's kind of a long story, but I worked for them for 10 years and worked for them when they were acquired by Ryan Smith and SEG. So I could kind of identify with getting to know them a little bit, and a lot of people in that building, and they're great. And they've that's always been my experience. How important is that in the NHL to have supportive ownership that is willing to invest in the team and in you?
It's the base of everything. I think we all often say it started from the top and go down, and the top is the ownership. And I think having the support and the energy and the values as well. I think that I said that story before, but when Ryan and Ashley Smith talked to our team the first time, it was all about Utah. It was all about what they were saying, what we vision, what either it was Ashley and I, or Ashley was talking about Ryan and I, or whatever. They were all about the team, the vision for the state of Utah and how much they love Utah. So that you could see those people had really, really strong value, and they're really good people. And I think that right there they got us in, and then we were all in from there.
One of the things Ian Cole has talked about since you've acquired him is just setting the expectation that the playoffs don't need to be this big, scary thing that you have to play perfect every night to get to. That should just be the expectation that you're good enough to get there. Mikhail Sergachev has lifted the Stanley Cup twice. What does it mean to bring guys like that in who have been there and have reached the pinnacle and know what it means, and how does that help some of the younger guys on your roster?
It helps a lot. When you're young, you say experience is not that, it's overrated. When you have experience, you understand how important it is and how valuable it is for your team. So I think there's thing I really like about our team. First, most of our team is back. We have only five new players: Bertuzzo, Robert Bertuzzo, Ian Cole, Sergachev, Marino, and Stanlund. All the other guys are guys who were inside our organization last year. So there's a stability there, and as well there's help. There's outside help who will help our team, and I think we have really strong leadership in our team. Young leader who every good leader needs to be surrounded, and I think the Ian Cole, the Bertuzzo, those guys are older player who's been around, who understand what you just mentioned. Hey, we need to stay level. We need to stay even killed. There will be bumps on the road. That's part of it. But we need to stay focused on the task, focus on what we have to do, not going too high or too low. You win a few games in a row, you cannot get too high. Let's settle down. There's another game tomorrow. We just need to make sure we're ready to play that one and stuff like that. Those guys will really help our leader and support our leader to be even better.
I love asking coaches this question about identity and, like, in a perfect world, how their teams, would be and what other teams would think of them and their identity. If it were me, my teams would play dirty and cheat. But I'm guessing that's not you and what you want out of the team.
But if it is, that's fine.
Ideally, what do you want the team's identity to be?
I would like to be dirty and cheat. No. We're a team with a lot of work ethic. We work really hard. We play with a lot of pace. We have speed, we have skill, and we play with a lot of energy. And we show up for each other. That's really important for us. I think we just talked a little bit about it. There's peak and valley during a season. You need to be there for each other when things not going the way you want. That's where you see the character. It's not about will we stumble. We will. It's how we react after. And sometimes you need your teammate, you need a friend, you need someone to help you, and that is something we have as a team. But our identity as a team, we're a team who has a lot of character, who works really hard, and we have speed and skill.
Two names fans are going to have to really get used to are Clayton Keller, and we already talked about Mikhail Sergachev. 26 years old, both of them.
Yep.
How much room for growth is there still at that point in your hockey career? Like, how much better can you get, and how good can they get?
Well, I still think there's growth in the hockey player at that age. I think you can reach your full potential late in your 20s in hockey, and now it's a matter of sustaining your peak as long as possible. And that's one thing I like about Kels, and I heard about Sergachev. I cannot tell you Sergachev is like that. That's what I heard he is. We'll talk next year, next summer when we'll meet. But I'm pretty confident. One thing I know about Kels is he has that philosophy of every day he's trying to be better. Every day he doesn't take days off to try to get better. If he has a day off for his energy, he will do something else. He will read a book. He will watch a documentary or something who will make him better, who will make him grow. So I like that philosophy, and that's. You talk about our identity as a team. That's what we want. We want to be hungry to be better every day. No matter what happened yesterday, we lost 6-1. There's nothing we can do about that. We won 9-2. There's nothing we can do about it. It's a 2-1 game, whatever. That's in the past. Now, what can we do today to be better, to go towards our goal to be a championship team?
Last thing for me, Coach, we mentioned resources. Your thoughts on the facility they want to build at the shops at Southtown, the Southtown Mall my entire life. Now they want to build a hockey paradise down there. What do you think?
I like the paradise.
Yeah, right?
I saw the plan. It looks pretty much like a paradise.
Awesome.
That looks really good. And I think we talked about it earlier. I think Ryan and Ashley, they've been really clear. They want to do everything they can to make sure the player has everything they need, and I think they all in on deck, and everybody inside the organization are working towards that, making sure all the player have everything they need, and so far it's just positive comment.
I don't know if you can tell by looking at Jake and I, we did not grow up working on the family farm. What was that like? And you go back to
what are you trying to say, Ben?
We'll drive the Zamboni. Yeah, we don't belong on these. You go back to the farm in the summer still?
Yeah.
Did you go this year?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you do? What is living on a farm like?
That's that, but I've been raised on the farm, and my parents still have the farm, so it's not a chore for me. It's not. It's just I'm an outdoor guy, so I get up in the morning, go grab a Tim Horton, grab a coffee, and go see my parents and start working. And different task depends about what the day bring, but there's the normal task to take care of the animal, but then after there's stuff, whatever, it's maintenance, stuff like that.
Are you driving a tractor, or what
I have that. I have all
right.
that. Yeah, all the toys you need.
You know, jazz legend Jerry Sloan used to do that in the offseason. He had a farm in Illinois. When you go back, he had John Deere hat. He was famous for it.
Need a summer job, guys.
Yeah, right. You got to do something. It's probably cathartic. It's probably nice. Coach, can't tell you what a pleasure it is to have you in town, have you on the show. We're all excited about it. So thank you,
guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
There you go. That's the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club, Andre the Bear Tourigny, sitting down with Jake and Ben earlier this week. Super fun conversation. I mean, I know they're all really excited to be here, and I know the Salt Lake market is really excited to watch the puck drop here coming up pretty soon. I know the preseason starts in the last couple weeks of September. So, again, rookie camp is going on right now.
It's exciting times. It's exciting times to have a new team and to be able to welcome hockey to Utah. Head coach seems like a very, very nice guy, very cool guy. And it is a little weird that we're going to be, kind of taking on this college football season, sprinkling a little hockey in there.
Yeah, sprinkling it in right now. And then I am excited to see how hard we hit it once it starts. And I have a feeling that, I know that Hans and Scotty really dove in during the Stanley Cup Finals. I know my guys, Jake and Ben, are hitting it hard, and then DJ and PK, I'm sure JJ and Alex. We're all going to be hockey experts within the next month.
That's the hope.
Yeah, and that's it for this segment. We'll come back on the other side. We're going to go technical fouls. Deion Sanders got trolled on Twitter. I was super excited to talk about this, so we'll get to that on the other side. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napolis. Alex, it is time for Technical Fouls, one of our premier segments on the Saturday Show. In case you don't know what it is, we kind of reward people in sports for being stupid or funny or doing something crazy. Alex, I'm going to have you start us off.
Well, first, I think it's time to change the name of the segment from Technical Fouls to Deion Sanders. And what he's up to this week, because it's always Deion based.
Yeah.
But mine is a little Deion based, but not really. But I guess there was a hit and run that happened just outside of the Folsom Field. There was a whole police chase, and I guess the guy involved in the hit and run was trying to evade police, ended up driving his truck into the stadium, and there's just pictures and videos of his standoff with police with him on the field. You can see the field's destroyed by the truck. A whole weird situation going on over there in Colorado. Thursday was a very weird news day with Colorado.
Yeah, you mentioned Deion Sanders. Luckily, Colorado plays at Colorado State tonight. That's at 8:30. 5:30. I need glasses. But they're the grounds crew is gonna have some time to fix that field. But you're right. That's a Deion adjacent story because Colorado, it has to do with them. But Deion Sanders himself gets another technical foul. So some backstory on Twitter the other day. This guy with the handle Willie Foosball tweeted, breaking, per sources close to Utah football, the laceration on the hand of Utes quarterback Cam Rising has grown infected and are showing signs of tetanus. He is expected to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. Utah Athletics is preparing a medical redshirt waiver for an 8th season just in case. And we're laughing about this because this news is not true.
Yes.
And I'm hoping nobody tuned out in the middle of that because they were so excited. This is a fake report by a fake reporter on Twitter. I mean, his whole shtick on Twitter is being kind of a troll, right?
Yes.
So he tweeted this out to kind of mess with Utah fans, whatever. If you're going to poke fun at injuries, that's weird. But anyways, shortly after that tweet came out, Deion Sanders tweeted, praying for at Utah football Cam Rising. God bless you, your family, and team. You're an awesome, resilient young man. # Coach Prime.
I think the best part is that part, hashtag Coach Prime.
So a lot of people saw Deion's tweet and thought something was up, including Scotty and Lloyd, and probably Hans too, but I saw Scotty and Lloyd's tweets. They've since been deleted. How convenient. But no, I mean, everybody saw that and was like, what's going on? Because it is big news, especially here, and we want to know what's going on with the health of Cam Rising and after what happened last year, but it is weird to be a troll and make fun of injuries, but it's funny at the same time that, I mean, people still don't know to fact check what you see on Twitter, okay? Anybody can make up a handle, and this guy's not even a verified account, by the way. Willie Foosball is not verified. I'm not saying that you have to be verified to be official because anybody can buy the check mark. But anytime you see news on Twitter, please cross-reference it, double-check. Take everything with a grain of salt, especially you, Coach Prime.
Can't trust him. He got, bro.
Yeah, he got trolled.
At the end of the day, Coach Prime got #got.
He did, and he later went back to Twitter and basically admitted that he got trolled, that he got. He then added, still praying for you, Cam. I don't want to butcher exactly what he said, but he was just like doubling down that he does have a lot of respect for Cam Rising, which was nice of him to do, but... Yeah, man, Deion Sanders getting trolled by Willie Foosball on Twitter. That's my technical foul.
Did you get the Buffalo tattoo removed off your chest yet?
No, I made an appointment. Who knows? Maybe if they beat Colorado State tonight, I'll keep it there. I'll cancel my appointment.
Weird stuff going on over there in Colorado, man.
We'll see what happens there, but coming up next on the other side of this break, let's talk Utah at Utah State. Big game, in-state rivalry for the Utes and Aggies. And of course, there's some other storylines that we've got to get to talking about that. So we'll hit that next on the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.